You are the most important relationship. Before you swipe, text, or worry about being too much, start with you. Grow Therapy helps you build self-worth, set boundaries, and show up as your full self. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans, including Medicaid in some states. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, the podcast aimed to inspire you to find your voice and become the best, truest, and most authentic version of yourself. Spiritually intimate, soul-to-soul conversations, life-changing insights, and spiritual teaching and healing. Real, raw, unfiltered. Join your host, Tisha Michelle.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, Tisha Michelle, your host. What's up, everyone? All right, what am I grateful for? Right. So in this present moment, I would definitely say that I am grateful for energy healers. You know, the massage therapists, the Reiki people. This past week has been a little rough. And when I say a little rough, just I have become so sensitive to energy, and I could just feel this transformation that's going on. I've been questioning like my identity and just knowing if I should like pivot and all these things that needs to be released and all these downloads and things that was just coming in. But on top of that, my body just hasn't been feeling right. And a lot of times when we are going through a transformation on like a cellular level, right? Like a deeper level. And basically I look at it as like things are just being like rearranged, and then your body is like, whoa, and if you're not keeping up in a healthier way, like, drinking water, getting outside, moving your body, maybe you're putting like coffees and sodas and all those different things and carbs and all that stuff into your body. And I'm not saying that anything is wrong with that, because I just listed everything that I put into my body. But because I've put a lot of those things into my body, when I start to go through this transformation and stuff, it's like my body's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's so sensitive. So it's a little hard. And I know that I needed to get realigned, that I needed to do some work. And one of the things that I did was I booked an intuitive massage, and the practitioner adds in Ayurvedic Reiki with it. So I was super excited about that. So it was so powerful, so healing, so relaxing. I got downloads. I could feel things that were being released. Like my body just was just like the energy was just shifting, and it was just dope and just like amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, lady, I love you. And so I'm definitely grateful for, energy healers, people who decided to answer that calling and step into their purpose. So super, super grateful for that. All right. So your turn. What are you guys grateful for? In this present moment, what are you grateful for? Now, unless you are driving, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and let's just connect. Let's get grounded. All right. So go ahead and take a nice deep breath. And I just want you to breathe in through your nose and out your mouth. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out your mouth. And let's just get one more in. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Yes. All right. So what are you guys grateful for? Express your gratitude. Express your gratitude. All right. So today's episode, I got to sit down with Joy Scott, right? So if you've been listening to me for a while, you have heard me numerous times talking about healing ourselves, right? And firm believer that we were all designed to heal ourselves, right? And I tell people all the time, I can't heal you, but I can teach you to heal yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? All that good stuff. So when I got Joy's like information and seeing the different things, about her and the different things that she, could talk about. The one thing that stood out the most, because all of the things that she can talk about is amazing and mind blowing, was really healing ourselves and also healing our nation. So I was really curious to see how this conversation would go and what her perspective, was on healing ourselves. So I'm going to read you a little bit of information around Joy. So Joy is an entrepreneur, spiritual activist, student of psychology and spirituality, and the author of 3 books. The one that is most well known is called Magenta Nation, and it's a handbook for healing ourselves and healing our country. So needed. The book dives deep into learning how to heal and awaken your own spirituality and how to influence others in our country and our world with intentionality and dialogue. Let's have some conversations, right? Now, while being a director of educating at Edgar Cayce, Joy developed educational programs introducing holistic health to the medical community. And she also conducts the educational conversations with series in which she interviews many leaders in the field of science, spirituality, and social justice. She collaborated with producers in Hollywood to gain audiences for scientific work of Stephen Hawking and its relationship to human consciousness, right? And previously, she had a decade-long career in healthcare where she has helped launch innovations to improve the well-being of those who may be mentally or physically ill and those who may not have access to care due to barriers of social injustice and discrimination. So while we chatted around healing ourselves and our nation, of course, spirit does what spirit does, and it guides the conversation to exactly where it needed to go. So it was a really, really good conversation. So I hope you all enjoy. Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul. Excited to have you here and have this conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So on my podcast, I always like to start off by expressing gratitude. So I do have a question for you. In this present moment, what are you grateful for?
I am so grateful that before we started, I had a chance to go out into the garden and just experience those plants and the quiet and the bees and the air to really get me centered for this conversation with you and your listeners.
I love that. It's super important. I talk about it all the time, just in my everyday life, or even like on the podcast, about getting just grounded, like center yourself. Like you allow so much more to come to you. You allow so much more to be released, so I love that you shared that, to just be able to like take that moment, like really just for you. So you can be, allow yourself to welcome in whatever's meant to like come in.
Exactly. And this is all of our interactions are opportunities to, share on an emotional level, on a higher level. It's it kind of cuts through that centering process, kind of cuts through the concern that we have about us. What do I say? What do I do? What do they think of me? And really puts it on a different level. It's about, what am I channeling? How am I helping?
Yes. I preach. Like I was talking about that, where it's like the conversation changes, the thoughts, change when you allow yourself that space to just be without the intentions of, like you said, what is this or how it's going to be this, and it's like, let's just be. And it's a beautiful space to be in. So I really want to start the conversation off with, because this is something that I'm always talking about to people. So I would just love to hear, like, from your perspective, when it comes to healing yourself, right? I'll say this to people, all the time. I'm like, look, we were designed to heal ourselves. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, we really are meant to heal ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, like spiritually. And we can take that and then put it out into the world to
contribute to other people healing themselves. So I would love your insight into that. Like, can we really heal ourselves?
Yes, we can. Right before this, we started talking through my work. I work with a lot of healthcare companies and was in talking with one about the neuroplasticity in the brain and how we can actually rewire ourselves, whether it's how we experience physical sensations or emotions or mental attitudes. We can change that. And one of the ways is through meditation. Another, of course, is through therapy or self-analysis, really looking at the things that we react to and why we're reacting to them that way. And there's usually a deeper meaning. And once we can face that, and we can change it, we can change it. So absolutely, we can heal ourselves and we can heal our world. I think also a lot of people today are concerned about that, as we should be. We are facing a lot of problems and challenges, and sometimes it seems like we can't. It's like the Tower of Babel. We just can't get it together here. So how do we fix that? How do we heal that? And yes, we can. Some of the same techniques I was just talking about on more of a macro level of being clear on what our values are, of looking at our own processes and how we are interacting with each other. And I'll talk more about that too as we get into the conversation.
No, yeah, I love that. I always say with awareness comes change, and with change comes growth. And it's like healing, like the So
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that self-awareness. To me, I feel is a big piece.
Yeah, I was told by a researcher that it only takes really 10% of the people in a culture to completely change that culture. And when you look at things like the Quakers, what an impact they had behind the abolitionist movement and others, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, there can be small groups who affect major changes in consciousness. In fact, last night I was reading a book about that was talking about astrology and mentioned that when the Berlin Wall fell in 89, that we're approaching some of the same astrological configurations again in the next couple of years, which could mean, some major positive changes. And when that happened at that time, it was like a miracle. It was like that this enmity is always going to be here, this fear. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it just stopped. It just came down. And those kinds of miracles can happen. I think it's important for us to even do more than positive thinking, but also to think clearly and visualize what we want. Every day when I meditate, I say, thank you, God, for the immediate miracles of the world coming together in love and a peace, as if it's happening, and we see it happening, we're manifesting it. And we know that it's more than possible. It is probable. This is going to happen.
Absolutely. And I believe in that as well too. Like if, each individual person can, put that energy out into the world and really truly believe it, that yes, because I know that I've heard a lot of people just through conversations or even maybe just like online and stuff where like, no, nothing's going to change. It's just nothing's going to change.
It's always changing. It's always changing. And it's up to us to make it change in a positive way. And think of it like almost like, the scales of justice, and you've got the two little bowls on each side and the bar and they're hanging there and you're putting things on there to weigh them. And if we continue to put on the little grains of positive actions and thoughts, it's going to outweigh the negative. And that's our job, is to put as many of those grains there as we possibly can. And always have the knowledge that, things can change and they are going to change. And it's up to us to see how they're going to change.
Absolutely. And this is something that I, say as something that I say as well is like, it starts with us individually, for sure. It starts with us doing like our own like work as well. And if we could all just really like come together, we could really have some amazingness, here. And I don't want to say that it's hard, but it's just seeing like how opposite, so many people really, are in there. And just from like your line of work, which like what do you like, how do we do this? How do we move the needle forward? Like, as a collective, and it's people. Like, what do you like suggest for people to really do that could really help to make sense of it, I guess is the best way to say.
Yeah. That's something I asked myself a few years ago. I was really upset. And, sometimes it feels good to get angry but it doesn't do anything really. And there had to be more, there had to be more here. And that's how I ended up writing a book. It's called Magenta Nation, about how we can come together. And first of all, it's getting away from the complaining and the fear and the criticism, and really going deep into what are my values? What do I value? And what kind of world do I want? And getting really clear on that, because if we don't have the intention and we don't have the vision, we will not get there. So that starts on an individual level, and it's not so much the how, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's the vision, it's the image, what kind of world do we really want? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And the second thing is to suspend the judgment, which is often very difficult. I think we're probably genetically disposed to being critical and analytical, but to also look at what are the values of those with whom we disagree, and recognize that they probably want the same things. When you get right down to it, there's a technique called the 5 whys, when you can say, oh, why do you think that? Okay, why do you think that? And why is that important to you? And you keep asking, and you get down to what the really basic core belief is. And for the most part, we want the same things. We want safety, we want families, we want love, we want economic security, we want a life with purpose. And so if we can agree on those values, then we can look, first of all, have that image, and then look forward to how we can create those together. And that may sound a little bit utopian, but ultimately there's the science behind it that says that consciousness isn't local, it is non-local. And that as we think, we create a reality for ourselves. I mean, that's been proven with experiments with water, experiments with plants, with meditation, with prayer, stopping violence in certain areas of the world. We don't quite understand it, but we're starting to. So I think that's very important to recognize the power that we have. So I was just saying it's important for us to recognize our power and to harness that in a very intentional way. And the second part is how we live our lives, expressing compassion, which are little grains of sand on that scale. And it's been identified that compassion is an evolutionary advantage, that groups and societies that can experience empathy and compassion are more likely to survive because they can work together and they can care about each other. And the third thing is service, finding those areas in which we individually can support these causes, this drive to compassion, this drive to empathy. And even if people may not be in a situation where they can be doing a lot in terms of service because of their situation or health or other factors, just visualizing this world that we want every day is so powerful. When you think about it, if you have thousands and thousands of people visualizing peace, visualizing prosperity, visualizing cooperation, it's like an army. It really is on an esoteric and a practical level. It's going to have a huge impact. And if we don't do that, then we risk wallowing in some of the confusion that we've been experiencing and not being able to find our way out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Taking it back to something you said about. Okay, well, I'll just say what I was gonna say, but it triggered that for me. I believe that everybody wants to be heard. I feel like everybody wants to be seen, and everybody wants to be heard, but people aren't listening, right? So where you were saying like having like compassion for other people. And really just kind of understanding what like those whys you were saying. That's what it was that triggered it, the whys.
Yeah.
with the why. But asking the question from a non-judgmental space, giving people that space to be seen, to be heard. And like you said, when you really get to the nitty-gritty, we actually want the same things.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But we're not a lot of people aren't taking time to really listen to someone, and then you have people who don't really know how to speak it because they're coming from an emotional standpoint, so they get very defensive and just like shut it down, like, well, because this is what this is and this is the only truth, versus just expressing what it is that you really feel and what you're thinking. And then I can express what I feel and what I'm thinking, and then we can kind of see, wait a minute, maybe both of us have been duped all these years in our life.
Yeah. Maybe neither one of us is seeing the complete picture, because there's always an emotional force behind an opinion. And when you get to what that emotion is, whether it's the desire for safety or it's fear or it's a reaction to change, whatever, or a long held belief, or a belief that's particular to a specific community, there's always an emotion behind that. I spent some time, another thing that helped inspire me to write that book was I spent some wonderful time with a relative of mine a few years ago, who turned out that we were definitely on the opposite sides of a spectrum. And some of the things that she said, I love her dearly, I would go, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that I had gone through this thought process before having it, because I would have said, oh, tell me more about that. Why is that important to you? Instead of just, kind of an unconscious, I can't believe you think that. So, that's the kind of thing we need to get out of, is the judgment and that our position is right. Even if it is, other people have different perspectives. And again, once you peel the onion, it may be that we want the same things.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's also, too, going back to that level of self-awareness. So like when you said you would go like you weren't even really thinking and you did that, that then can make it, then that, I guess, like give that person that space, and now they're like defensive, right? Because of the way like you said that. And I think if we go a little further and we get, a lot more in tune with ourselves, that we are aware that we did that we say something, say, hey, like I made that noise because honestly, it really just kind of took me back, However, I really want to hear more about like, your perspective on that. And like, that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay to say, versus coming from the place of, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you're
yeah. What do you mean? That kind of outraged. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Because then you don't have a healthy dialogue from there. It's hard to.
And if you yourself, are coming from a place of fear or judgment, that can it could be two-way, I guess is what I'm saying. And I recognized that I was coming from that place. And it required some analysis on my part and going kind of deep within to get to the realization of, we need to, as we were talking earlier, identify these common values. And also in my book, I talk about using common language, the language of safety, the language of being able to take care of our families, the language of being able to have a meaningful life. Those are the things, the underlying values that we have in common. And that's where we need to start, is acknowledging that.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely agree in there. I feel like a lot of it really boils down to having conversations.
Yes.
Having conversations. It even goes back to what we were taught. Don't have conversations around religion and politics, and don't be discussing money. There's certain these different beliefs and these things.
Yes.
And I feel like it played a part in we tiptoeing around and not wanting to have conversations because I have to be right and you're wrong. But it's wait a minute. No, that doesn't make any sense. So who gets to determine who is that, what you feel and what you believe is right, or what I feel and what I believe, is right. And people don't open themselves up to a non-judgmental, of course there are some people who do, but they don't open themselves up to have this non-judgmental conversation, create a safe space for people to be seen and to be heard. And really, let's get to the nitty gritty, because once we can see that we actually want the same thing, now we can lock arms together.
Exactly.
And now we can help move the needles, forward. And so I love that you talk about that and you put it out there. Yes, we can heal ourselves as well as on a collective level, but we got to have those conversations. We got to start with the conversations with ourselves.
Yes. And I wish there was some way to do this even on a national level, within communities, and, talk about things that matter. I mean, it's some of the observations and discussions about how we can heal this polarity. Let's, work together. That's very important. But we also need to talk about the elephants in the room. There was an article I just read in the Kansas Journal that talked about how a process by which, I guess it's called adaptive leadership, where we can identify our primary things that we want. Maybe it's in government or in our communities, and then be willing to trade off for things, I'd like this, and I'll give up this to you if you would give me my most important thing. And I would love to see that done on a broader level to really get an idea of what is most important to people. I don't think we've figured this out at all, that we get hung up on the details and don't look at the bigger picture of what do we really want. And maybe we focus on those couple of things and let the others, put them aside for a while. Rather than getting, again, so immersed in the details and the particulars of a debate or an argument. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'd sure love to see it happen.
No, I would as well too. And I think, if to get to the nitty gritty of, well, what do people really want? What do they really value? It has to come from a place where we're not pushing fear into their life, because they're reacting from a place of fear. And when you react from that place, you don't even know what you like. You don't even know what you want. You don't even know what your values are, because it's just coming from such a fear base. And it's more to lean into the love aspect,
Yes.
I love how you said about, having compassion. For people, it does soften things up, and it allows you to hear, it allows you to, to feel, so you can come from a much better space.
Exactly.
Based, versus fear. I do have a question just for your own personal journey, if you don't mind talking about that. So I guess how did your spiritual awakening happen? I don't know what term you would refer to, but because I know you're a spiritual activist and doing this work and connecting with consciousness. How did that come about?
Sure. Well, it was in me as a little girl. I was raised as a Catholic and was just deeply involved in my religion. I felt it so much on a very, very personal level, and I felt a calling there. And then, of course, getting a little older, as we do, started to question. And no, there's a lot of judgment here. I don't understand this idea of hell. This doesn't make any sense. And I found other things, like I discovered Edgar Cayce when I was about 11 years old, who was the mystic and psychic who did thousands of readings on health and also on spirituality. And that's been a constant in my life. I have been involved with that ever since then, and worked for a time at an Edgar Cayce medical clinic that was applying the information to health. And being part of a spiritual community there was just an amazing experience of having prayer and meditation being part of our lives and putting spiritual precepts into action. And then got very involved in earning a living, raising a family, and a lot of different responsibilities that took up a lot of time and energy, but came back around to it probably about a decade or so ago. And it's become even more and more important. And as I look at it now, and this might be a topic to address too, is that at different points in our lives, we have a chance to reset. Things may be changing or we want them to change. And coming back to listen to the spiritual guidance, of what we should be or could be doing. And right before the pandemic, I had said, this year is going to be my year of prayer and fasting. And I'm really going to put myself in spiritual boot camp with meditation and prayer and a little abstinence on certain areas. And then the pandemic hit, and a lot of that was done for me. But it has been a time to go into a regular period of prayer and meditation and having downtime and reflective time, and to really come up with the direction that I think is important, for the rest of my life. As long as we're breathing, life is going on, and we all want a purposeful life. So that's a long answer in terms of the spiritual awakening. And, how it's important. I mean, we can have one at any time. We can have many of them in our lives. So it's a matter of being kind of conscious about our purpose, which is often hard to do when we are, so busy with, and things happen. But, it's encouraging to be able to take the time to do that and reset and find that purpose, maybe in a little different way, but still connect with it.
Oh no, absolutely. It's just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because it does look different. It can happen multiple times. So I'm glad you even touched on that, because it's not just one thing. I know a lot of people feel like they're like, oh my God, when is this thing that's just going to drop out the sky and then my room is just going to light up, filled, and then I know that like I've arrived. I've made it. I've had this. And in actuality, it's the breakup that you just had. The breakup that you already knew you were meant to move past. In that sense, it's the job that, you just got let go over there, or whatever the case may be. Like, that's it. That's the shift, and that's the shift that then gets you thinking a little bit differently and questioning and say, wait a minute, what are my values?
Yes.
What do I like? Wait a minute, what is my purpose? Like, oh, I have a purpose. So you kind of go through that, and then you can get on this path and you start learning. I remember when my biggest, awakening happened after the death of my best friend.
Oh,
life looked different. Everything looked different. I swear the grass was greener. The sky was bluer. And as cheesy as it sounds, it was the truth. Like, it just looked like that. And I would tell people, I'm like, I don't know. It's almost like I feel like I'm just skateboarding through life. Like, and I don't even get on a skateboard, but that's how I was feeling, as if I was on a skateboard, and those shifts and those changes like will happen. And then you can go through this other period, and then guess what? You can reset again.
Yes. I had an experience. I'm sorry about your friend. That
Thank
must
you.
have been such a tragedy. And I had an experience of losing my younger brother. We were in our 20s and he died. And that was a reset for me, for sure, of bringing me back into what was really important. And I'll never forget that experience. And, there's a school of thought that we choose the things that happen to us in life. And I do agree with that. And often we'll look at something and go, why in the world would I have chosen that? That is such a horrible, why would I have done such a thing? And there's really, no way to wish away or think away these experiences of grief and loss. But there is a reason for that. I mean, in terms of, just to put it in a very individual basis, I mean, losing my brother changed me hugely. And I'd still rather have him, but it was an opportunity to grow and grow in compassion. And there have been others, sometimes I don't get the hint. And still it's like, I'm so angry. Why did they do this to me? And it usually has nothing to do with somebody else or the situation. It's like, how do I react to this? That's the bottom line. Things happen. Nobody gets away with a perfect life. We're here, as a friend of mine says, we're here in Earth School and things happen. So the thing to do as a spiritual being is look at, what can I learn from this? How can this help me to be a better person? Recognizing that it can be a huge loss, a huge disappointment, a major grief. But our lives are going on. And this is the stuff of our lives. It is the food, I guess, that we have been given to make something of in our lives, and to try to look at things in that way.
Absolutely. Like you said, you're looking at it like, what can I learn from this? Or looking at the things that we, perceive as a tragedy in our life. Like, well, what did you learn from that? So like, I know for me, like I now say, my best friend gave me the greatest gift ever, and that was helping me to remember my purpose. Right. So when that happened, I questioned everything. I was questioning God, this God everybody was talking about, this doesn't even make any sense if this happened. And when I share this story, like the biggest thing of it was when I asked this question out loud, and I said, there has to be more to life than this, because if this is it, I don't want to be here anymore. Right. But it took, for me, I was just existing, right? I'm just going day to day, the mundane, and just I'm just here. It's just what it is. I was literally just existing. And then it took, because of the closeness with Gloria, my best friend, of how close we were and how that just unexpectedly happened. It gave me the chest punch, the gut punch to step back. How earlier I was saying, some people really don't even know what like their values are, right? They haven't even given themselves time to even really think about what they like or what they don't, because they're so busy, just existing in there. But with the passing of her, it put me in timeout, and it allowed me to be present and to feel how I was actually feeling. And I was feeling like, why am I here? Why am I? But, sometimes you don't even allow yourself to feel that, because you're just go, busy, stress, or depressed, or whatever the case is, and like, for me, like that was a big wake up call for me. And I asked that question, there has to be more to life than this. And because I asked that question, the universe, God then started giving me the answers, and was like, whoa, that's why I said everything started looking different. Like everything was looking different, because I was in one role, one way. So while I would love to have my best friend physically here, because, it's that physical aspect of being like a human, here where we've like, gosh, like I want in that sense. However, I do know and believe there's a much bigger picture, much bigger picture. So because this opened and cracked me up And now I'm able to use my gifts, and I've helped over these past 3 years, like so many people in that sense by our souls coming together. And I'm like, wow, this came. Now, would my awakening have still happened? Absolutely. Do I believe that it could have came a different way? But that was the way that it happened in there. So I'm always forever grateful, like for my, my investment in that space. So anyway, I'm saying all of that to say is that these awakenings and these shifts and these resets can happen in any type of way. And it could feel like the worst thing ever, but there's always a bigger picture. It's always a bigger version.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And when you talk about loss, I mean, loss is real. It's very, very painful, but often after the first wave of grief passes, there's an awareness that we want to live our lives to honor that person. And it can be a real inspiration. Like I felt that, and many people feel that about after people have passed. It's an honor to have had these people in our lives, and we want to live their values. We want to demonstrate our lives in a way that would make us proud of them and validate their existence as well.
Absolutely. Like the name of company, which is Heal, Align, and Glow, that stemmed from her. Her name is Gloria, and then they called her Glow. So I'm like, you're forever a part of my life in general, like, because like that was my rider right there, but now it's also of my purpose of what I do. And I can honestly say that that's where that was the catalyst to it. Had been coming out different times throughout my life, yeah, when I look back at it now, I can see when it was trying to wake me up. But I was like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. Let me just go about nope, I'm good. And then it was like, boom, you're going to sit down and you're feeling it through this sense. And it's not to say that, oh, the universe or God took her to get me into that. No. Just so happened that was the tipping point for me, because even though I had other flags and things that were showing up through my life to let me know that I was on a little detour and I needed to get back on the path that was for my highest good, I was ignoring it. But this was something that I couldn't ignore.
Yeah.
Right. And then had me to question, which also goes back to that level of self-awareness. Right. Of being able to say, what is the bigger picture? What do I envision? What do I want this? People's like, oh, we need change. Well, what is that? What does that look like? Like whether it's within yourself or as a collective, like, what is that? Right. And really starting to go within.
Yes. And that period of, we touched on, meditation, but having that period of stillness every day, even if it's just a couple of minutes, is so important to be getting in touch with that purpose and the confidence that we have within us, everything that we need to fulfill it. I say that affirmation every day that I have within me and within my higher self, everything that is needed that I will be called upon to do this day. And it's great for worry. It's like, oh, I have everything I need. No worries. And to start the day with that feeling of connection and confidence, and also that we're guided. That was a big change for me that came out of my spiritual journey. I was always a person who felt, it was up to me. I had to do everything. I had this responsibility, and that not really. That I could let that go and open myself up to intuition, which is very powerful and is just working wonderfully well to guide my life at this point.
Ain't it? Man, it's the superpower. Like, seriously, it's really the superpower. It's like, yeah, I'll be practicing this boy with my intuition. I'll be just, there you go, because it's never going to steer us in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
It's always going to have our back. It's just, and I can't express that enough, where I tell people, I said, really just trust yourself. And I know you may feel like you're having a hard time, but start, doing some baby things to really build up that muscle, because that's what you need. Like, your intuition got you. You're literally a life or death situation.
Yes. And also, the love and guidance, like we were talking about loss, those people are still in our lives. We're in a different dimension, and I feel them, and I know, they're looking out for me. So we really have an incredible resource in the people who love us, no matter if they're still living or not, as well as in our higher self and the guidance that we get on a higher level, whether you call it God or the higher self or whatever. It's there for us as well.
Absolutely. I tell people, I said, ask for a sign, ask for a sign from your spiritual team, whether it's an ancestor, an angel, whatever people, connect with, but ask for a sign, literally ask for a sign. You will get it. You will get that sign, and you'll, you can say, let me know, show up through like a red bird. Right. And then all of a sudden there's a red bird or a sticker with this red bird. And you're like, what the heck? Allow yourself that space where you don't feel like you have to try to say, well, that was just a coincidence. So I just said that. And it's like, no, open yourself up so you can still receive that guidance. And not only just the guidance of which way to go, what's this, a better decision, or helping you out into something, but it's also when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling maybe lonely or sad, or really just feeling like there's not much purpose for you, or whatever the case is, our spiritual team, again, whether it's your angels, your ancestors, we'll do something, or with something that makes you feel comforted. I know sometimes, for me personally, I can be sitting here, certain things may just go on or whatever, and then all of a sudden I just start rocking from side to side. And I'll just be like, does anybody else see this? Right. And first of all, I'm the only one in the room. But I know when my guides are, comforting me. Right. And then I think about, what was I just thinking? How was I feeling? And I literally will start rocking from side to side, that swaying. And I start to feel this level of you're okay. You're good. So yeah, they might not physically be here, you're in the other room, but you will get the guidance, you will get the love, you will get the support, you will get the signs. You just got to open yourself up to believing and receiving it as well.
Yes. And when we talk about feeling lonely, I mean, that's part of the human condition too, and may be tempted sometimes just to give up, but we can't do that, just to reach out, to know that things are going to change. And, sometimes I'm glad I didn't give up at certain points, because, the best part of my life came as I got older. And it was wonderful and came in very unexpected ways. And I would have missed all that. So, it's important that we are there for each other when, someone's having a hard time, and just to get through it. And things will get better.
Absolutely. So how can, so go ahead and just, wrap it up. I always want to be mindful of, a person's time. And I definitely appreciate you being on here. How can we support you? I know you have a lot of work and stuff, and you mentioned your book, how can we all support you?
Sure. Well, thank you. I'd love it if people could get the book. It's short. It has a lot of exercises in it to help people clarify values and how you're thinking, and guidance to do the things we were talking about listening, about coming together. And it's on Amazon, and I have a website. It's magenta-nation.com, and magenta is the color, MAGENTA -nation.com. I have a podcast that's a Magenta Nation podcast. We do events, conversations with spiritual leaders, and those are all on the website as well. We have a blog going. So really trying to support people in their own journey, that's what I'm all about at this point in time, and sharing these things that I'm producing. And hopefully they can help people and help us move towards in the directions that we've been talking about in this podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely love to get in on those conversations. Like, I think just having conversations are like just the greatest. Like, you can learn so much about yourself and about other people. And just have these conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just again, I am so inspired by these ideas of how we can come together and conquer the fear and the division that we have, both on an individual level and as a group. And so, my work right now is really about trying to get people involved in that process. So thanks for this opportunity to talk, and hopefully some of the things that people have heard on this may inspire them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, again, taking the time to, have this conversation with me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the work that you are doing as well. It's extremely valuable and so much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Seeing with Your Soul. If something you heard resonated with you, feel free to rate, review, and share with others. If you are looking to go deeper, you can connect with Tisha Michelle on Instagram at Mindset Slayer, or visit www.healingalignedglow.com.